All right, now I'm ready to stabilize my shoulder by using stay tape. The stay tape in your kit is 100% cotton, 1/4 inch twill tape, so you're going to want to steam press it to make sure that you have shrunk it down. Then you're going to cut your twill tape into 2 pieces, and you're going to cut it the length of your front, right? Because that's the part we want to stay. That's the part that wants to, that's the length that we're dealing with. The back shoulder seam is ever so slightly longer, and we're going to ease that in, and that gives us shaping over the shoulder. So if I take my 2 pieces and I'm going to line them up, I'm just going to double check that I'm pinning. There's my line on the back. Right, there's my line on the back, there's my line on the front. My notches are lined up. What's important about this is we want to make sure that we pin from each side, because we want to line up the seam line on the front and the seam line on the back are what line up with the cut edges. It's not up here. It's not up here at the points. See, the back and the front at the shoulder do not line up at the neck edge. At the cut edge, they line up at the seam line. So if my seam line at my neck edge and my seam line on my back match up, then put a pin in there. That means that my triangle marks, right? My triangle marks should also line up, and that's what's important. So now before I pin the rest of this, because now you can see that there's a little ease in the back. And I'm going to put my twill tape almost exactly on my line. And I'm going to pin through it this way to make sure I'm pinning on my stitching line in the back as well. Now my fabric has a little bit of stretch to it, so this actually is a good thing because it's going to keep my shoulders from stretching. Every fabric is going to have a little bit of stretch in here because the shoulder is cut, you know, on a degree of bias. And if I figure out the center here, I want my stitch line on the back. So this is a little bit of a delicate process because you want to pin this in place. It's a little hard to pin through the 1/4 inch and get it all. And you want to pin it in place. You want to hold everything where it needs to be. And you're going to stitch, you're going to stitch from this front side because it's going to help ease in the back. And we want to make sure, so we're not stretching the front to meet the back, we're easing the back into the front. And I'm going to put another pin here, just kind of hold things in place a little bit more. Shift that down. So I'm just pinning and looking, right, to see that I don't have too much fullness in any one place. So I'm going to go over and I am going to stitch, and I am going to back stitch this time. So I want to catch the stay tape as well as ease the back into the front. And I'm going to stitch this way. I'm going to stitch with my tape side up. So let me go set up at the sewing machine and show you. So I've set up my sewing machine with a piece of tape out here to show me where 1.5 inches is, because our markings don't go past 1 inch. That's going to help me guide this through since I'm stitching on the tape side of my jacket. I'm going to actually use my permanent stitch length. I'm going to place everything, and I will back stitch. And I'm going to let my feed dogs help ease the bottom side. And as as I said before, yes, sometimes I do sew over my pins, but as long as I'm not pulling my fabric or pushing it, I should be fine. I have to repin this bottom so it doesn't go anywhere. Now, if I did this right, oh, look at that. It actually worked. So it's eased in. See, I veered off a little bit, but it's eased in. There are no puckers. It's not gathered, but you can tell that it's eased, right? So that's how you stay your shoulder. Now at this point, you can go and press the seam open, but remember we want to press on, let me pull back here a little bit and show you. We want to press on a pressing ham in order to not get rid of this fullness that we just put into the back. I'm going to show you what I mean by pressing your shoulder seam on a pressing ham. So if I put it on a ham, right, so now I have a bit of a curve going here. I'm going to find the curvier part. And I'm not going to flatten out all of this ease, right? I want that ease. It shapes in my shoulder, but I can press my seam open on the ham. Now, I'm not going to leave all of this seam allowance in here. It's too much. Nobody wants that much seam allowance left in. And I think at this point, I'm pretty confident that I can trim this down. However, if you want to give this one last fit, once you sew your side seams in, you may want to put the jacket on and just double check everything is good. So if you're fitting the jacket to yourself, do not trim your seam allowance down yet at the shoulder seam. I will trim mine down and then I will be ready to sew my side seams.